Hey, welcome to the first ever Upbeat Golfer Q&A. So today's one is about overcoming nerves, and it was inspired by this great question from Nightwolf on one of my other videos where he asked, I've been struggling with being too quick. How do I overcome nerves around other golfers? I'm an 18 handicap who plays with guys that are all below 10, and I get so embarrassed when I play with them and hit a bad shot. Sometimes my hands shake when I'm putting, which I assume is because I'm afraid of failure. Help! Now, you're not alone, Nightwolf. We've all been there. Especially in the early days when we're learning and you're playing with people who are better than you. So the first kind of awesome thing here is you're playing with people who are better than you, which is great because you'll get positive monkey see, monkey do, right? You see people doing smart things. Maybe you'll notice like little things, like for example, you always tee up on the uneven, crappy part of the tee box and they tee up on the flat part. So there's a lot of positives about playing with lower handicappers who kind of know a little bit more about how to play the game. But I also understand this is the way I learned. When I learned how to play golf many years ago, my best friend was one of the best junior golfers in the country, and I knew nothing. I was like, which way does this club go? And so I fully understand how you feel. A lot of the guys I used to play with were significantly better than me. And it was embarrassing, right? Because number one, we struggle with being too quick because we are slow. You know, if they're taking 72 shots around and we're taking 115 shots around, I mean, those extra 37 shots, 43 shots gotta come from somewhere. And so they're all gonna take time. But there's a few things we can do to like make this all better. So A, take a little bit of pressure off, B, stop being so rushed, and C, kind of make it just a more enjoyable experience overall. So let's get into it. There's kind of 4 big parts that I've thought about this from, but let's talk about them one at a time. So the first one I just mentioned, which is you are slow and you do play more shots than they do, but that doesn't mean that it has to take more time because you're playing more shots. So there's a whole bunch of things, little things you can do, right? One, you can walk faster in between shots. So if you go to Reddit, you go to any of these other places, you talk to anyone who knows what they're doing, and a lot of times they'll say, I don't care if you suck, as long as you suck quickly. So anyway, that's kind of the key thing most good golfers are looking for. I'm often paired up with, I play with a lot of random people, and so I'm often paired up with people who might be like a 20-30 handicap. And I don't mind as long as we're keeping pace, but if you're on your 17th shot of the hole and you're still trying to like take 4 practice swings before everyone, like don't do that, right? Then I might start, you know, saying, hey, we need to move up a little, or move a little faster. So you're gonna take more time, but you can do a lot of the stuff off the ball. So for example, there are 3 parts, and I've talked about this on my other videos on consistency. There are 3 parts to hitting a shot. There's a think box, the feel box, and the play box. You can do all your thinking while other people are doing stuff. Depending on where they're set up, if they're right next to you, maybe don't take practice swings. But if they're on the other side of the course or whatever, you can do all the feel box stuff as well while other people are doing stuff. So really the time elapsed between them hitting a shot and then you hitting a shot doesn't have to be that long. And so, you know, buddy over there is like getting everything ready. Over here, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going this far, this is what's gonna happen, this is with the wind, etc. So I've got a reasonable plan. Then here I feel my thing, and then I go hit the shot. Now, I think for a lot of us, especially 18 handicappers, the issue is when you get here, now you start going through a mental checklist. And you're trying to A, remember the mental checklist, and B, execute it over the ball. And that's where that quickness kind of happens because you feel like you don't go through all the steps here. But the reality is you set up too many steps to happen over the ball anyway. Most of those steps should happen back here in the feel box. And even then, I think maybe like 3, maybe 4 at the very most. Any more than that, and your brain is just too involved and it doesn't let your body kind of get into it. So one easy way to like feel like you're not so slow is to not be slow by making the best use of the time that you have in between shots, right? Or while other people are doing stuff. So that was the first part about being quick. The second part was about being embarrassed when you hit bad shots. And welcome to the club, right? All of us, everyone watching this video has been in a position where you're set up and there's a whole bunch of people watching and it just does not go well. I once, when I was a kid, I used to play this club and the starter was like right there and he used to have a little microphone, he used to announce people. And I'm standing here and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And you know, and I shanked a ball into the fence, like right in front of me. And all of the people around, there was like patios, all this, probably, I don't know. It felt like there were 5,000 people watching. In reality, there's probably like 10. And in real reality, most of them were probably thinking, I wonder what I have for lunch today. Because I think that's one of the core parts of this whole embarrassment piece to remember is that we are all the hero of our own story.
He's doing it himself. 2-1 in the 20.
What's he yelling? Me. He's pointing at the name on his back and repeatedly yelling me.
And so we're all so engrossed in our own story that we really don't care so much about other people's stories.
Oh, I thought you was saying meat. But yeah, yours makes a lot more sense. Okay.
And so feeling embarrassed about the bad shots you hit, if you're thinking about like, what will people think? Well, they already think. They're like, you're an 18 handicap. That's how you play. And the ones who are 10 handicappers used to be 18 handicappers at some point, and they're thinking, okay, that's what it's like when you're an 18. It's possible that they're also thinking, oh, this person could improve in XYZ way. And I think that's one of the other huge benefits you have of playing with people who are better than you, is you can ask for advice. Now, obviously with caution, right? You don't want to be bugging them while they're playing, but also not all advice is good advice. So you kind of have to be smart with like which advice you take and which advice you don't. But if you're playing with these people regularly, definitely like ask for advice, be like, hey, I just haven't been able to hit my driver yet today. Can you see anything I'm doing wrong? And so that will take some of that embarrassment that you might feel where, oh, they're judging you, and make it more kind of positive, because you're like, oh, I hit this badly, please help. And that turns the embarrassment more into kind of like coaching, and it makes people feel good too. So I definitely feel good when someone asks me for advice, because I feel like I'm contributing and I feel smart and important and great and I'm the friggin' man. And you can give people that gift too. So you can definitely ask for that. And one more thing here, it's also important to remember is you're gonna hit bad shots. I made a video previously where I talked about like the core numbers of golf. And in that I talked about how many bad shots should you expect to hit in a round. And so as an 18 handicap, you should expect to hit 18 bad shots at least in a round. I mean, they're going to be offset by some good shots, so that's going to help you. But if you're an 18 handicap, you're probably going to hit at least 18, maybe 20, maybe 30 bad shots around. And so being embarrassed about that every time, I don't know if it's really productive. Instead, you could think about it as this is the journey, right? Like for all of us to get to being wherever we are, whether we're 5 handicaps or 0 or +5 or 20 or whatever it is, we got there through sucking for a while. And so we all hit those bad shots, etc. And this is just part of the journey. So take a deep breath. When you're getting embarrassed, just like I prefer instead of being embarrassed, I laugh it off. I kind of say the things that I expect other people are saying. And then often you'll realize that they don't really care, right? Like I might hit a bad shot. Often I hit really bad shots, right? I might be set up for something and this ball just doesn't go where I want it to go. And I'm like, well, that sucked. And it kind of diffuses attention a little bit. It actually reminds me, it's going way back. There was a Family Matters episode in like 1991, I don't know, long time ago, where Steve Urkel becomes the cool Steve Urkel, and he realizes it's all about not making them laugh at you, but making them laugh with you, and that changes everything. So I think that really helps the embarrassment. That was a real throwback, so you're welcome. And finally, let's talk about your hands shaking when you putt. I know that feeling. I had a tournament 2 weeks ago where my hands weren't shaking, but my head was definitely all over the place when I was putting. It's normal, it happens to everybody. I think one of the core things about putting that makes it a little bit harder is because you're bent over, you're kind of closing off your ability to breathe. And breathing there's this great book called Breath. You can read it if you're interested, about breathing, as you would expect. But what it talks about is that breathing has a separate connection to fear in the brain. And so when we don't breathe, our body starts going, oh no, what's wrong? And then the brain basically answers whatever question you ask it. And so when you start asking your brain, what do I need to be scared of right now? It will find things to be scared of, even though they're not life-threatening. Like most putts are not life-threatening. If you're in a life-threatening putting situation, you got other problems. But you get where I'm coming from. And so the core thing that you can do, and this is what I do before everyone, and you'll see actually a lot of the pros I think do it too, although it's kind of hard to tell depending on camera angles, is they breathe before every putt. And so I would just do that as you're getting there, right? Take a deep breath, make it part of your pre-shot routine. So you line up the putt, whatever, let it out, relax. And again, this is the same thing as with the previous one. Don't go through a mental checklist. The more you go through a mental checklist, the more you will feel like you're slow, because you are. And like, there's some accuracy there, right? There's some reality going on. So you'll feel like you're slow and it won't help. So instead, deep breath, relax. You got like 1 or 2 things. So for me, when I'm putting, I'll have my line, whatever. I set up the club face, look at the thing, set my feet up, make sure they're square, look at the hole, feel it, and then putt, right? And that's, oh, look, I hit it. And that's an easy way to do the putting piece. So thank you for that question. It was a super, super interesting question. I think it was relevant to a ton of people. I hope everybody else found it useful too. If you have more questions, please check them in the comments and I'll do my best to answering as many as I can to the best of my ability. Of course, all the disclaimers apply, right? This is my opinion, my experience, my approach. Maybe it really resonates with you and maybe it doesn't, and there's somebody else whose approach might resonate better. But I'll do my best at answering some of this stuff from kind of an upbeat angle. So thank you for being here. See you soon. Ciao.